We expect that the German economy from the second half of next year will have regained the level of before the outbreak of the coronavirus.
I speak now to Holger Schmi-ding, Chief Economist at Berenberg Bank in Berlin. Also with us is political analyst Klaus Jurgens, who joins us from Innsbruck in Austria. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show, both of you. I want to start with you first, Holger. Where Germany goes, the Eurozone goes, that's the saying. So how would you describe the health right now of Germany's economy?
Well, the German economy is probably contracting slightly at the moment during the second wave of the pandemic, but the hit from the second wave is much, much, much smaller than the hit during the first wave. All in all, we can say that the German economy and actually the Eurozone economy has so far come through the pandemic with much less of an increase in public debt than the US and the UK. So if the word debt spiral would apply to any region of the advanced world, it would not be to Germany, it would not be to the Eurozone, it would be much more to the UK and the US. Over here, the rise in public debt remains fairly limited, and chances are that the German economy, the Eurozone economy, will start to rebound again significantly once lockdowns can be eased. When is that the case? We don't quite know. Let's hope from roughly April onwards.
Klaus, tell me something. Why has the limit on how much Germany can borrow been so controversial?
Well, hello. Nice to be being back on the show. Germany has, ever since the Maastricht Treaty, of course, and actually before. But since the European Union came into being, it was said that 60% should be the maximum GDP to debt ratio. Now it is above 70%, as we all know. But at the end of the year, sorry when I sometimes look at all the figures, this is economics after all. At the end of the year, the forecast from the OECD stood at France 116%, Italy 160, USA 128. So Germany, after all, as my esteemed colleague just mentioned, did fare reasonably well. Now, Germans do not really like going into debt, not only in the southern state of Baden-Württemberg, but this is a very famous saying about buying and building houses. Now, joking about it, it's a very, very serious matter. When a government goes too much into debt, here, the wisdom would be it is actually risking any chance of a recovery, of a fast recovery, because people simply ask the justified, legitimate question, how are we going to pay it back? May I give you just one more figure? The central government, the lender, the local councils, and the social insurance agency, this is what I compiled from the Statistics Agency, spent 158.2 billion euros more in 2020 than they earned. Now, this is a sensational development, despite what my colleague said, Germany will recover probably faster than others. But the situation was unprecedented. Corona was unprecedented.
I see Holger shaking his head. Do you disagree?
Well, first of all, for the numbers that we now know, the German debt ratio probably reached around 66% of GDP last year, not 75%, as the development was much less bad than had been feared by some forecasters in the middle of the year. Secondly, it is worth pointing out that the fiscal deficit in the US and the UK last year was about 3 to 3.5 times bigger as a share of GDP than it was in Germany, and about twice as big in the US and the UK as it was in the Eurozone as a whole. The rise in debt is a problem, but it's not such a problem. After all, Germany managed, as your chart did show, to reduce its debt-to-GDP ratio from 82% in 2010 to below 60% in 2019. The rise in debt, which Germany is now incurring to pay for pandemic support, is something with good growth, the economy can bring down again, say within 3 or 4 years after the end of the pandemic. So as long as Germany pursues policies that are good for economic growth, this should not be an issue. And we do hope that France, due to the Macron reforms, is following suit. And with luck, but that's now a lot of luck, if Draghi succeeds in Italy, even the one problem region in the Eurozone, Italy, may turn the corner. But that indeed is a very uncertain prospect at the moment.
Let's talk about how Germany will fare compared to other Eurozone members, such as Italy, such as Spain, those countries where the 2008 financial crisis is still very, very fresh. Trust me. Oh, that question to you, Klaus.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
No problem at all. I'm not shaking my head here. No, pleasure. Now, what I wanted to say is, yes, the German economy is actually gearing up to have a good recovery. And this is based on the solid financial structure and the solid economic structure. Of course, like everywhere else, there was a downturn in demand in private consumption. There was a reduction of value-added tax. There was much less income tax due to the corona pandemic. Now, but already now there are signs that foreign demand, for example, from China, is coming back to Germany. And I think the manufacturing industry will bounce back very, very quickly. Secondly, very often overlooked, in Germany, we have a very strong tradition, which is the family business and small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, if the government manages to stimulate the economy, that those businesses do not go out of business, but actually get back into it. It can be tax reductions, it can be a stimulus package, it can be helping with international cooperation, strategic partnerships, you name it. I believe what is very often overlooked, the small and medium-sized enterprise will be a key part and parcel of Germany's recovery. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development said from 3.9% average growth in its lenders. And sorry, this was too long. But
no
yes,
problem. I want to ask something that is really on my mind, and I'm sure so many of our viewers, when we think about Germany, what will happen when Angela Merkel is no longer there in September? Can we get that recovery? Holger, to you first.
Well, it depends a bit on what government we get after. Most likely we will get a government that's very similar to the current government, a government where the Conservatives are in coalition with the center-left party, probably the Greens, and that government, without Merkel, will pursue policies very similar to those of the current Merkel coalition. So in the most likely scenario, we will not get any serious change, except that we will have a new face at the top.
September this year, no Angela Merkel. Klaus, we've run out of time, but thank you, both of you, for coming on the show. Holger Schmi-ding and Klaus Jurgens. Thank you, gentlemen. See you soon.